First things first, social media monitoring and measurement, it says there. Monitoring and measuring. What's the difference?
In easy terms, monitoring is when you track the data with a view to responding to that data to enhance conversation, create further engagement. Whereas measurement is analysis of the data in a different way so that you can start to put a value on it or an ROI. And I've sort of got that sort of slight summary there. They're similar, but they're different. The good news is, from a business point of view, if you have the right person, they can do both for you. So it's not two heads.
Okay. Well, let's talk about one of them first, monitoring. Yep. That's the first one. Do many companies monitor?
Most companies monitor. I think anybody who go into the social media channels at some point, there's somebody down the line who wants to have some justification of the results. And basically, if you're opening yourself up in social media channels, you're mad not to monitor, because there's always going to be that risk that somebody's going to come on and disrupt what you're saying and try and get in there and sort of mess things up. So monitoring is really policing, if nothing else.
So why would companies not monitor?
Probably lack of understanding of what's involved, and lack of resources to actually do the job. But fundamentally, anybody in a business environment that doesn't monitor their social media channels is certifiable.
Certifiable?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the specific challenges? I mean, you've got the challenge of monitoring. Are there any challenges in particular?
I think with monitoring, the first one is what tools do I use? I mean, there is such a plethora of different tools out there to actually monitor your channels. Where do you start? That obviously is the first thing. How much do I invest in the process? Who does it? You know, being able to look at what's going on in the monitoring environment and respond accordingly takes certain skills. It's not a great job if it's only part of your job. You know, if it's not your primary job, and then you're trying to fit a bit of monitoring in at the background, that's usually when accidents start to happen or things get missed. Especially if you've got a vibrant community building.
You're not selling monitoring particularly well, I have to say. Why should companies monitor? What are the benefits?
Basically, you're getting instant feedback. And I talked before about the relationship between yourself as a brand and your audience. And fundamentally, it's all about customer service. And if somebody comes onto your channel and asks a question or has a problem or has a complaint, you know, they're not happy to wait 24 hours for a response. They almost expect you to come back straight away, just like they would if they were contacting a friend on Facebook. I mean, this slide is on a slightly greater scale, but if you remember David's opening session where he was talking about the Android stand at the Mobile World Congress, that was an amazing stand. I mean, you probably didn't get an idea of how big of it, but I think that you could park something like 250 double-decker buses on that stand. It was so big. But this data here came through monitoring, and it was just basically an indication of how outside of the event the stand was making an impact globally. Who was talking about it, where they were talking about it, where it was being picked up in blogs, in forums, microsites, Facebook, which news stories were picking it up. So it was monitoring things from a techie who was visiting the show and putting something up on Facebook, right through to it being picked up as a mainstream news story by the BBC or ABC News in the States. And that information from Brandfield's point of view, without giving too much away, was an actually really useful layer for their particular client, because not only could they give the hard data of the number of people who used the slide or the number of people who came onto the stand at the event, but it actually gave the global reach, the global impact of an event like that. And that was very, very useful and very satisfying to the client. Bear in mind, they obviously invested quite a lot in the event themselves.
Okay, that makes the benefits slightly outweigh the challenges now, so well done. So we've already got a question actually about it. Which tools, what kind of tools should we use?
Okay, well, I've got a few tools which I'll deal with in a bit later, but what I've done is in a few slides I'll come up to a selection of tools, some of which are free and some of which you pay a little bit of money for, and they all do certain things. So I've sort of taken out of the 500 or 600 different tools out there, I've selected 5 or 6 that I would suggest you start playing with straight away, and they needn't cost you very much money, but I'll come on to that in a minute.
Okay, so should we go on to measuring now, or do you want to?
I think so.
Tension's unbearable.
Okay.
Okay, so I know you've given us a distinction between monitoring and measuring, but do companies still have the same attitude towards measuring as well? Do they see the challenges and stuff?
There's a big demand for measurement, because I think anybody who isn't a financial person in the room today will be constantly badgered by finance saying, what's the ROI on this social media activity? What I like to say on that is ROI is a financial terminology, it's not a marketing terminology, so it's the wrong one to use. It doesn't always work, but that's what I would say. But I mean, the main reason why people want to measure is they want to justify costs. The main reason why people don't get into measurement is it's hard to measure results. It takes a certain amount of skills. Even using the tools out there, it requires a certain amount of analytical approach. You need to understand how data works. You can generate an awful lot of results measuring social media that are total rubbish, but they may be what you're looking for. So you may actually go into a meeting with your results, and if you're not knowing how to use the tools effectively, you could actually be presenting a lot of data that doesn't make sense. So a lot of companies tend to outsource it because it's safer. And primarily, they don't have the staff to do it, they don't have the expertise in-house to do it, and they're a little bit frightened of it.
Okay, so how do you balance the question of outsourcing or?
I think the main thing about whether you outsource is what kind of a platform do you have? How much reach is it going to have? If you've got a very small community in a very tight platform, you can fundamentally use the measurement tools of that platform itself. If you're very interested in, for example, in the Android case at Mobile World Congress, we needed a very powerful tool that could scrape the whole of the internet and collect data from multiple different news feeds, multiple different platforms, and using keywords, drill down and provide us with some information that we could then analyze and make some use of. So I think the challenge of measurement is how broad you want to go. There are 150,000 different platforms out there that could be measured, probably more now. If your community, your environment is very narrow and very tight, you can probably live just utilizing the analytical tools that are supplied by people like Twitter or Facebook themselves. If you need to go broader than that, that's when you start to need to bring in the skills from outside.
Yeah, skills from outside, that's you. So let's imagine, hold on, I'm not sure who's doing the static, so we'll borrow this microphone here. We've got a microphone here, so I'm guessing it might be you. First, we can try it with you talking.
I think it's static all day.
It's static. Okay, so come on, I want to know how to measure or monitor. Tell me what to do, because as you said, there are hundreds and hundreds of that, and we've already had one question about it. I can't find it now. Twitter, Tumble, Facebook, Twitter, Clout, so many. How can we cherry pick when each one tells you it's the next best thing?
Okay, well look, what I've done here is I've given you a selection that I would say my personal selection of ones to try. I've tried to give you a generous cost base. So we've got Social Don at the bottom there, which is free. Twitter Counter, that's free. They charge you a little bit for generating small reports. That's a good place to start. Then you've got things like Page Lever, £99 per month for up to 5 Facebook pages. I think that's quite a good deal, actually.
And with these, can you monitor or measure all your social media sites?
Page Lever is focused on Facebook. Twitter Counter looks obviously at Twitter. Social Don crosses a number of other platforms that you can use. I tend to recommend to most people, especially if they're starting with social media, that really it's Facebook and Twitter to start with. You might want to do Google Plus if your audience is right. And as you can imagine, Google provide great analytics on Google Plus that you can interrogate as part of their own platform. So that's sort of built in.
Well, just quickly, somebody has said, is it true that Google Plus, which you mentioned now, is the second biggest social media network now, taking over from Twitter?
Ooh, I've got to be careful what I say here, don't I? I'll be polite. Yes, Google is the biggest in total numbers, but don't forget, if you sign up to Google Mail, you automatically become part of Google Plus.
So whether you use it or not.
So the question is are your communities, going back to my previous presentation, are your communities actually in Google Plus? There are some amazing companies with huge Google Plus pages being very, very successful. But it's really a question you have to ask yourselves is Google Plus a community or an environment where your audience is actually based at the moment? If it is, by all means, go ahead and use it. But that sort of stat about it being the second biggest social network, you could have a debate about it, shall we say, in terms of activity.
Okay. So, all right, those are five. But should we talk about the big two?
Yeah, I mean,
regardless of Google Plus.
These measurement tools are when you want to go to the next stage. You want to interrogate the data a little bit further. But let's say you're at the very first stages of wanting to analyse your site. Let's have a look at Facebook. Now, Facebook uses an overall measurement tool called EdgeRank. I'm going to describe this very simply because it is complicated, but fundamentally, EdgeRank is an algorithm that measures the age of posts, how much they're exchanged and spread across the Facebook platform, and how much reach they get. And they give your site an EdgeRank number. And that EdgeRank number actually dictates the visibility of your Facebook page within Facebook. So basically, the higher an EdgeRank number, the more likely your Facebook page is going to be seen. Okay? And there are a number of things that affect EdgeRank. However, when you go onto your Facebook page and you can see that you've got your data insight section as an administrator on your Facebook page, you have a number of different bits of analysis you can look at by downloading it from the data that's available. And these are I've pulled out the 6 that I think are most important. The first one is fan reach. That's the first bit of data that you need to take a look at. And that basically helps you measure the appeal of your content to your audience. i.e., so how much how much of your audience is actually seeing that content. The next one to have a look at is organic reach. Yeah? So that's not your audience directly, i.e. your fans, but it's how it spreads out from those fans to the next layer. And that's often about how well you're promoting your page through other channels, maybe your blog, your website, your newsletters, where you're bringing in people that aren't direct fans of your page at this moment. Third, engagement. Engagement rates, this is a very simplified look at engagement. The way you calculate engagement, number of engaged users by the number of reached users times 100. If you blog this, you will find that there's acres and acres and acres of comments on whether or not this is robust enough, whether it should be weighted, all that kind of stuff. At this stage, I don't think you need to worry about it, but it really just tells you how interested your audience is in the content you're posting, which is probably your primary job, posting interesting content. People talking about this. This was something that Facebook introduced in the back end of 2011. It's still gathering a little bit of momentum. It sounds good, but really all it is if you post a bit of content on your Facebook page, how likely is it going to be shared? So again, it all comes down to how good is your content. Number 5, clicks. I think most people know what clicks are, but the nice thing about the Facebook insights is that you can break it down by your video, your photographs, links, etc. So it gives you a nice little breakdown, and it gives you an idea of who your top-level engaged users are. So who are the people on your page that is generating the most amount of engagement? Maybe they're the people you'll want to contact or reach out to a little bit more directly, because they're effectively the people who are doing the most work on your page. Think the 80-20 rule. And then 6, negative feedback. This isn't always a good one to look at, because negative feedback actually impacts on your edge rank. Go back to that algorithm. Don't worry about it. You just want as little negative feedback as possible. So if you actually post something on your site that generates negative feedback, try and work out why you think people reacted to it negatively, and try not to do it again.
Because someone has asked, how would you advise we deal with any negative feedback we receive on social media? So you're just saying, don't do it again? Or, I mean, you know, it's there. Once it's there, what do you do with it?
If you get a negative reaction on your page, don't do the bloke thing and get defensive. Just apologise and move on. Yeah. You know, if you upset your audience, the best thing to do is suck it up, say sorry, and move on. It's forgotten. If you ignore it, it will very, very quickly, more than likely, get a bigger problem that you then can't walk away from. Okay, so if anything goes wrong, just admit to it, say sorry, and go on. And actually, it's a social network, and most people on social networks actually respect that. Everybody makes mistakes, and they'll leave you to it. If you try and ignore it, try and hide it, try and bury it, that's the worst thing you could possibly do.
Okay, while we're still on Facebook quickly, these are a couple of integral questions. How do they actually calculate the number of people talking about you on Facebook?
Literally, it's the link to any post. So that if you've posted something, it's how people have either shared that post, or they've commented under it, or that comment's been shared with somebody else. So it's literally how those comments are connected to your original post. That's how they measure it.
Right, and this is a very good question actually. How does Facebook decide what is negative feedback? How do they know?
Literally, it's just sentiment. It's use of words in the sentence. So it makes it's pretty accurate, but it's analysed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of sentences, and it can pretty well work out whether something is sort of neutral, neither positive or negative, positive or negative. Occasionally they get it wrong, and this is where other monitoring tools are very useful. For example, some additional monitoring tools are very, very heavily sentiment-based. They're very good at measuring sentiment. One's a product called Crimson Hexagon. Extremely expensive, about £34,000 a year to use Crimson Hexagon. Big brands tend to use it to manage and monitor sentiment towards their brands globally, and it's a very, very powerful tool. So it's a question whether or not sentiment is important to you as an individual. But for most people, Facebook's own tools are fine.
Okay. Should we move on to Twitter?
Yeah, quickly. Measuring Twitter success. This is much more straightforward. Follower growth. You know, unlike what I was saying before about eyeballs and numbers and whatever, obviously getting people on Twitter and getting more people on Twitter still seems to be the main goal for most people. I would argue for specialists, it's nice to have a nice tight community of relevant people. But follower growth can be, you can get a tool that just shows you how it's growing month on month. Growth is important, but also seeing if they're dropping off. So if you're losing people, so if you're tweeting something and it's getting people are getting bored with that, they might unfollow you. So that's something you want to watch. Reach, tweet reach is a tweet reach report and that just really gives you an idea of not only how many people, you know how many people are following you, but how many other people might be seeing any tweets that you'll post through retweets and pass-ons. Okay, so that gives you some idea of your extended reach for Twitter. Engagement, you know, again, it's how many people are talking about you. If you've put a tweet out there and it's resonated across the ether, this will give you an idea of how many people have picked up on that, again, retweeted it, shared it, passed it on. Clicks, yeah. I think this is really important in terms of getting people to click through back to your site maybe. So maybe you'd put a link in a tweet and you want to drive them back to a site or a particular place. This is a very good place to actually measure that. Hourly daily stats. For example, an event like this, you might not realise it, but today's by the social media team will have been chunked into 5-minute sections. So the whole day will have been chunked into 5-minute sections, looking at the content that's going to be on the stage, what kind of things are going to be tweeted and spread out in each of those sections. And so we could actually look at the hourly or daily statistics to find out what was the most popular session, what were the subjects people were most interested in by responding on social media, and we can use this tool to do that. And again, for big events, that's very, very useful.
Okay, just in summary, just before you do that, it's a question from the audience. In terms of posts, posts that you might put up there to get attention or whatever, how many? What is there a right number a day? I mean, should you, can you overdo it?
I think on Facebook, there's definitely a limit. You can get away with a small number on Facebook during the day, maybe 3, 4, 5. If you've got a big event on, you could try and get away with more. Tweets, I think for an event like today, you could easily get away with 10 or 20 tweets or even more without any negative feedback. A lot of us nowadays, though, ignore the recommended numbers and just get a feel for the audience. You very quickly get an idea if people are starting to push back on what you're doing. And again, that's one of the advantages of having a dedicated individual who's worked on a page or a number of pages over a period of time. They get to know the audience and they get to know where the tolerance levels are.
Okay, so you had a summary slide. Do you want to?
Yeah, so again, it's a bit of a repetition of my last session, but I think you've got to have your own goals in terms of what you want to achieve. I don't recommend going after numbers. I think quality is the future for most businesses now. So it's about recruiting the right people on the pages, the people who will engage, the people who will discuss. Having somebody just following you when they don't contribute really doesn't have as much value as obviously somebody who's investing time in your page and responding what you have to say. Also choose your channels. They don't have to be Facebook or Twitter. LinkedIn can be an incredibly powerful tool, and it also has that great opportunity of developing forums outside of the main channel, which you can invite people in to and get sort of precise information from and actually interrogate people's views. Decide what metrics that are going to be important to you at the beginning before you start and stick to them. Maybe pick 2 or 3 to be the ones that are most important to you. There are so many metrics out there that you end up measuring far too much stuff. And try and anticipate the problems you might get in terms of measuring. My only recommendation is that as you get deeper and deeper into measurement, you really do need somebody on board who understands how to cut and dice data. Like I said right at the beginning, otherwise you can get some amazing stats, but you're never 100% sure whether they're true or not. So, having somebody on board who can analyse the data is really, really important.
Just one question that's actually personal to me as well. What about, I know we're running over slightly, just quick answer if you can. The best strategy for recruiting new followers, because there are places you can just buy them, can't you, for people and stuff like that. Tweet ad, as someone's mentioned, are they any good or?
If you're going after numbers, they work. I'll give you an adage though, which is a story, we were given a task by a vehicle company, a motor company, to actually recruit 500,000 fans to their Facebook page. And they, in order to help that recruitment, they gave us a free car to give away to get those numbers up onto that Facebook page. And lo and behold, 6 months later, we had 500,000 fans on the page. 3 months after that, we had 150,000 fans on the page because we'd recruited 500,000 people who wanted to win a car. We didn't recruit 500,000 people who were found at that particular motor company, and the same could be applied in this case. So just be careful how. There aren't any quick wins. Quality, not quantity, is the name of the game in my book, especially when you're starting, because your foundation of any social platform is most important. It's better to spend a year building a platform of 5,000 people who are true followers of what you do, and then build on from there, because they will always be the core of any conversation and engagement on your site. If you don't have those, you may never find you have them, irrespective of the numbers you get onto the page.
Okay. One last tweet. He says, "This guy is brilliant." Thank you very much, whoever that is. Very kind.
Could you tell my wife?
No, they're talking to me, I think. Anyway, no, very good. Jon, excellent, insightful stuff. I'm sure you're going to be badgered towards the end, so please hang around. Jon Ross, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Is that for me? You're too kind.